So now we in it. Now y'all getting to see what it can be like, right? I'm curious about how we're going to be talking about Colorado if they end up not being as good as many Colorado fans seem to think. Like it's one of these things that is interesting because the thing that made Prime as a head coach is winning. And winning at an outstanding clip, right? You look at that Jackson State squad he had the last couple of years. It's phenomenal, right? They're tearing everybody they play up. They lose a close game, though, to Louisiana Monroe, which tells you about the talent in FBS versus talent in FCS. For instance, in my 134, last year's ULM team contributes to, they are dead last in FBS for me. And that's behind places like Kennesaw State, right? Who's going to go into their first year of FBS competition this season. But now, the influence that Colorado has in the sport does not equal the kind of winning we expect to see on the field. We talk about Colorado in prime like we do Nick Saban, Alabama, when he was still head coach at Alabama, like we do Kirby Smart, Georgia, like we do Dabo at Clemson, like we do Ryan Day at Ohio State. We can keep going down the list. Brian Kelly at LSU or even in Notre Dame, Steve Sarkisian at Texas. We give them lots of air. We really do. And we talk about Colorado more than we've ever talked about Colorado in the 21st century. And they weren't bad when Joel Klatt was quarterback. They weren't bad when Rashawn Salaam was Heisman winner. They weren't bad when Cordell Stewart was quarterbacking them and beat Michigan, right? Throwing that pass to Michael Westbrook over top of Ty Law's dead body. We talk about it. Eric Bieniemy, 1990 National Championship. We're talking about them more than we've ever talked about Colorado football ever. And that's why it is difficult to not talk about them is because they're such an interesting program. But the reason they're an interesting program is because Prime is interesting. I dare say that if Deion Sanders isn't being coached by his daddy, we might be talking about Colorado and Shedeur the way that we talked about Brendan Rice at USC, which say when Brendan Rice was talked about, we mentioned Jerry Rice, but Jerry Rice was his daddy, not his head coach. And you can keep doing this all the way down the line if you really want to. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a great example of this. We know who his daddy is, but we're not talking about him being coached by his daddy. We talk about him, right? There's also this point where it's one thing for folks to get upset about you having an opinion about them. It's another thing entirely when you having an opinion about them offends them when you using facts. Like, I don't know nothing about the CBS thing, and I'm not going to talk about it because it sounds like that's got nothing to do with football, and it's got nothing to do with on the field. That sounds about like it has something to do with things that ain't got nothing to do with Colorado and football. Where I get kind of raising my eyebrow on this, and this is where I keep saying, I ain't there. I ain't in Boulder. I can tell you what they did on a football field, and we'll evaluate that from there. It's things like Bill Connelly and his teams that might level up and teams that might not wrote about Colorado, and he wrote about Colorado from the standpoint of a little bit of opinion, but not a lot, and he really worked in what Bill does, which is facts. So I'm going to give him the benefit of a quote here and then tell you what I think about it. It's, on the other hand, finishing 4-8, ranking 81st in S&P Plus last season was still a massive step forward for what 22 was when they were almost one of the worst teams in the country, right? He's giving them full credit for taking a leap forward. Now heading into 2024, they're once again receiving hype that they haven't earned. This time, primarily from EA Sports College Football 25 game that lavished hype rankings on quarterbacks Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter and made them one of the 20 most talented teams in the game. But they almost certainly aren't a top 20 team. Improving into the 50s and 60s might not make much of a difference to the win total, but it would still represent improvement, and it still gets them on this list. I have Colorado not even in the 50s, 60s start the season. I got them at 41, and I'm catching hell about that. Like, I did a show earlier where it was just like, okay, you got a group of 5 team ranked ahead of Colorado, and I'm going, it's Memphis. If we're paying attention, Memphis ain't operating like no group of 5 program. Memphis got $25 million from FedEx just for name, image, and likeness. Memphis has always wanted it. And when they get to see other programs joining the ACC or even, the American, and they stuck. They got feelings about that. You know what I mean? And I don't expect them not to. And now they got an opportunity because they get Florida State. And I think Florida State, who I think is a top 5 team to start the season, they're going to get the what, for, and the how now from Ryan Silverfield and them. And they're going to give it to Mike Norvell because he used to be their head coach. You know what I mean? It's going to be love at the end. It's going to be animosity up until then, baby. It's going to be getting in because that's how Memphis want to do it. They would like nothing better than to go over the top of the Florida State Seminoles on the way to a group of 5 berth in the college football playoff, because that's how I work the rankings out. It's who has the best opportunity to win a national championship. And as quiet as it is kept, if you a bad Big Ten team or a bad SEC team or a bad Big 12 team, I'm sorry to tell y'all, these good teams in these minor leagues, as people like to talk about them, the minor leagues, the group of 5, have a road that is easier than yours to get to the playoff. Because they got a road to get to the playoff, they got a road to get to the national championship. It's going to really get under people's skin when they find out a place like Jacksonville State going to be in the playoff, and a place like Washington, who might go 7-5, might go 6-6, ain't got a prayer. Ain't got a prayer. You want to play big boy football? This is what it means to play big boy football. I mean, you got to play with the rest of the big boys. I don't enjoy this conversation that we're having that ain't got nothing to do with football. Like, I love talking about Prime because I think Prime is one of the most interesting people on the face of the planet, and he is a singular individual. There is only one man, one person in the entire history of the world who has played in the World Series and the Super Bowl. Is him. Okay? Kyler Murray was going to get close, and Lord, I wanted him to play baseball in the worst way because I love baseball, but you know what? That dude won a Heisman Trophy and was drafted in the first round. Drafted first round of Major League Baseball, drafted in the first round of the NFL in the same damn calendar year. 2 months apart. My goodness. I sometimes think that football is wasted on Kyler Murray because he's not Mahomes over there. He could have been Mahomes over there, 5'2" player like we read about. He wouldn't have been Mahomes. Now, Shohei Ohtani exists. There ain't no way. And then before that, Mike Trout. Maybe he could have got to Mike Trout's level. Maybe. But Shohei, Kyler ain't pitching. Kyler ain't doing that. I don't want Kyler to pitch. I want Kyler to bat leadoff and play center field. I want that dude to be the second coming of Ken Griffey hitting dingers from the leadoff spot. But point that I would make in all of this is we're still talking about Colorado, and I'm thinking we're going to keep talking about Colorado, especially as we get up to the North Dakota State game, because that's the number 2 team in the FCS, playing a team that went 4-8 last year. Yeah, they got Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, and they'll probably win. Colorado will probably win. But they probably won against Nebraska. They probably won against Colorado State. They probably won against Texas Christian, and then the wheels fell off. Okay? 3-1 turns into 1-8. Okay? Or excuse me, 3-0 turns into 1-8. Let's keep it 100 on all of that. That's all I'm saying. As we continue to talk about Colorado and Prime, a couple things that I've been leaning back on, especially the last couple of months, is I ain't there. But I ain't at Alabama. I ain't at Clemson. I ain't at Florida State. I ain't at Ohio State. I know ball. And you know what? Even if I didn't know ball, I can count wins and losses like everybody else. And that part you can't hide. There ain't no lipstick on that pig. If you're not going to win, people are going to talk about you not winning. If you win, people are going to talk about you winning. That's the long and the short of it. That's it. Did you win? Like the OJs, can you come out and play?